Hello everyone, welcome to The Author's Crown. My name is A Crown. In this channel I will present to you stories written by both myself and occasionally stories written by good friends of mine. So without further ado, let's get this show started. Today's story is a crossover between the X-Men and Doctor Who. More specifically, the 10th Doctor and an X-Men team consisting of Professor X, Jean Grey, Wolverine, Beast, Rogue, Gambit, and Nightcrawler. So sit back and enjoy this exciting adventure named The Doctor and the X-Men. The moon shines down on the X-Mansion. As usual, Professor Xavier is in his study reading. Most of the others are in the living room, except for Wolverine, who is in the danger room, and Jean Grey, who is in the control room. As they are going about their business, suddenly a strange, wheezing-like blaring noise echoes throughout the mansion. Xavier places his hands to his temple and mentally sends a message. To me, my X-Men. Within minutes, all the X-Men arrive in Xavier's study and stand beside him, with Rogue, Gambit, and Nightcrawler on the left, while Jean, Beast, and Wolverine stand on the right. Be ready, team, Logan says, unsheathing his claws as the object begins to come into view. Everyone is standing there as the object fully materializes, revealing a blue box that says, East Public Call Box. Wolverine steps forward with his claws at the ready. As he nears it, the door opens and a man in a dark brown suit pops his head out and says, Hello, everyone. He looks around at everyone and then looks at Wolverine and sees his claws. He steps out of the box and says, Oi, you better be careful with those. You could put somebody out with those things. Wolverine holds his right hand up towards the man and says, You better start talking, bub, or I'm gonna rip you to shreds. The man raises his hands and says, Alright, then, fair enough. Put the claws away. I mean, you no harm. My name's the Doctor. Beast steps forward and asks, Doctor who? Just the Doctor, thank you, the Doctor replies. Okay, Beast replies. The Professor then approaches and attempts to use his telepathy to read the Doctor's mind. The Doctor looks at him and, sensing the mind probe, says, Oh, telepathy! Fascinating. I have that too, to a certain extent. The Doctor takes a seat in a nearby chair and says, Well, this world is just fantastic. You've got telepathy. That fella there is blue. The short, hairy guy has metal claws. And then there's another blue guy over there. Amazing, just amazing. Doctor and the Professor lock eyes. And then the Doctor uses his telepathy to send some information to the Professor. Charles then turns to his students and says, This Doctor is not from our world, or even our universe. He's just here on a journey of discovery and knowledge. My stars and garters. That is most intriguing. Jean then steps forward and says, So, Doctor, what would you like to know of this world? The Doctor continues examining the room and sees Gambit holding a glowing purple card. He takes a close look at it and says, Is that kinetic energy? Oh, that's fantastic. How is it you have all these amazing gifts? The Professor then begins to tell the Doctor of their mutations. Doctor, with a look of awe on his face, says, So, the DNA of certain individuals possess certain distinguishing strands in it. Brilliant, that is. This guy's a nerd. I'm going back downstairs, Wolverine says before walking out of the room. The Doctor watches as he leaves and says, Well, that guy is a little too rude for my liking. Rogue steps forward and says, Yeah, Logan can be grumpier than a bag full of cats in a swimming pool. Couldn't have said it better myself, mon ami. The Doctor then looks at Rogue and says, And what, if you don't mind me asking it, is your mutation? I can absorb the powers of another mutant through skin contact, and if I'm not careful, their life force. The Doctor then says, So that's why you wear the gloves. Rogue replies, Yeah, had to learn it the hard way that if I'm not careful, I could hurt people. The Doctor puts his hands together and says, I am so sorry to hear that. I'm glad you keep your spirits high. Aw, Sugar, you sweet, Rogue says as Gambit glares at the doctor. He then steps forward and says, Dr. Hank McCoy, pleasure to meet you. He shakes the doctor's hand and then says, you seem to be a highly educated man of science. The doctor replies, Indeed I am. Indeed I am, Dr. McCoy. I would love to talk science with you. Would you care to join me in my laboratory? B says. The doctor gets a huge, goofy smile on his face and says, You go to the laboratory? That's fantastic. I would be happy to. He is interrupted by the sounds of extremely massive stomping. What is that? The doctor asks. The professor looks over at Nightcrawler and says, Kurt, go investigate. Nightcrawler nods and vanishes in a plume of purple smoke, leaving the doctor with a shocked look on his face. A few moments later, he returns and says, There are sentinels approaching, Professor. The professor then sends another telepathic message, this one saying, X-Men, prepare for sentinel attack. The remaining X-Men in the room run out of the study, and the doctor turns back to the professor and says, Wait. What's going on? What's the sentinel? The professor then directs the doctor's eye to a nearby window, and the doctor looks out. The professor says, Mutant hunting machines developed by Bolivar Trask. The doctor continues looking out the window and then sees the X-Men approaching when they begin fighting the giant robots. The doctor continues looking around outside and then sees the X-Men fighting the giant robots. Rogue flies and punches them as Gambit covers her with exploding cards. Nearby, Jean telepathically throws objects at the Sentinels, while Wolverine charges head-on with his claws. A Sentinel attempts to step on Wolverine, but Nightcrawler quickly teleports him out of the way. Meanwhile, one of the other Sentinels fires blasts at Gambit, but Rogue quickly flies him out of the way, and he says, Thank you, Cher. The doctor says, What if I give them a hand? The professor, shocked, says, I would not recommend it. Well, I appreciate that, but I cannot stand here, lazing about. I need to help, see what I can do. Unknown to both of them, someone in a red-black suit. Meanwhile, as the pair are looking out, Deadpool walks up from behind them, approaching the doctor's box. He opens the door and steps inside, pokes his head back out, looking straight forward, says, How's that for a pilot, listeners? He hops back in and slams the door, locking it. He then skips towards the console. The doctor, hearing the door shut, turns around and runs towards the TARDIS. As Deadpool begins flipping random switches and pushing random buttons and moving random levers, the doctor begins hitting the door saying, No. Whoever you are, get out of there and don't touch anything. As the TARDIS begins to fade out of sight, Deadpool yells out, Sorry, I've got a series to run, Barty Crouch Jr. Wahoo! And that's the story for today. I hope you enjoyed it as much as I did. If you like what you heard today, stay tuned for some awesome things to check out on the Zeo to Hero Network. And thank you for listening to The Author's Crown. Subscribe to the channel! Do it now!
My name is William Cranston. I know, you know that name pretty well if you're a Power Rangers fan. Well, my job is to sit in the land of that time and space, viewing different universes and hand-picking unique potential Rangers for a quest. I'm looking for champions. Now, I've already picked some of them. The Power Rangers Future Foundation. The Power Rangers Magnificent Megaforce. Hell, I'm even considering Power Rangers Cyberforce V2. But, if you want to know how I acquire these champions, the steps I take to make sure that these champions do exactly what I need them to do to get to the point where I need them at, if you want to know every inkling, all the backstory, then come listen to the Diaries of William Cranston on the Tiger Tales The Lost Stories YouTube channel.
Hey there, podcast listener. You enjoying what you're listening to? Well then, do I got a special treat for you. Storytime with Cosplay Dude 637. That's me. I'm your host, and I like to tell you stories. Stories that I personally enjoy. So, buckle up, get comfortable, because we're going on a wild ride.
Do you ever wonder what would happen if
you give a dad a podcast.
Hello, all my beautiful people.
Hey, Mom, I'm not going to college like we planned. I'm going to take a couple years off. I just gave all my college money to this professional wrestling promoter, and I'm going to be a big superstar one day.
I'm a human and I'm a chiropractor.
I wasn't about to call you dad, so.
I'm what you call a nerd fan.
In the Monos Chronicles, the new web series that I'm working on.
We inadvertently made that kid cry. We didn't mean to. I mean,
people get really mad at those videos for some reason. Like it triggers certain people. Yeah.
First tryout, made the team, made starting position. I was right guard for a little while.
Hey Jared, that swerve I was going to tell you about, here it is.
It's going to be from a nerdy dad's point of view.
Get starstruck. It's not a big deal, man.
I am being starstruck.
I made a really good career out of being able to bump, sell, and I had a punch me face.
That's why they call it If You Give a Dad a Podcast.
Exactly. Available everywhere podcasts are found.
Hey there, and I apologise for interrupting, but if you're a fan of Power Rangers, I have a question for you. Did you ever wonder what would happen if in Power Rangers Super Mega Force they failed and the Armada won? Well, I've actually answered that question by writing a story called Power Rangers Magnificent Megaforce, a fanfiction where the Armada wins, and 50 years into the future, the Armada have taken over the entire planet. But there's a saving grace in a ranger and a guide and a ghost. If that sounds all confusing or yet intriguing, then maybe you guys should go check out Power Rangers Magnificent Megaforce on Tiger Tales, found on YouTube.